Hey, what's up, y'all? Mike Fox here. So after doing my chorus review, I received quite a few requests in regards to the libraries that I used for that particular track and the track that I used for my chorus review. And I thought it would be kind of fun to just go ahead and do a quick run through of the track and to show you which libraries I used and how I use them. So without further ado, let's dive right in. All right, so here's the track. We're going to go ahead and play through the whole thing, and then we will talk about those libraries that I used. So here we go. Okay, so that is the short track that I wrote for the chorus review. And is that still working? Yeah, I believe so. I hope so. I don't want to have to redo this. All right, so as you could hear, I was really going for something just like kind of crazy and chaotic and dissonant. I deliberately wanted a very busy mix. I just wanted stuff going on and, a lot of stuff going on to just kind of, keep it interesting and somewhat intense and just busy. I guess that's probably the best word to sum it all. Just busy. And it is. I think it's really busy. And in fact, a lot of the orchestration doesn't make any sense. And I deliberately did that because, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. But there's a lot of clashing notes and a lot of dissonance. And that's all deliberate because I wanted, a feeling of tension. And so I am using like 2 different bass tracks throughout, and there's a lot of clashing notes going on. And you can't necessarily hear it, but you can definitely feel it. And it just adds, a level of tension. So when I first wrote this track, I started with strings, naturally. And the strings are actually really, really basic. In fact, this entire track it's a very, very basic track. There's nothing complex about it. There's just a lot going on. It's just a very busy mix. So the strings that I used, this is the foundation of the entire track. This is kind of like what drives the entire track. It's what all the other instruments sit on top of. It's these strings. And they pretty much run throughout the entire song. So this is what that sounds like. And that's all it is. That's all it is. So what I used for that, the library I used for that was Jaeger and Araya. It's the same strings, but for whatever, I don't know what I was doing here. I guess I can just close that. But yeah, Jaeger Strings. And I used these strings because I wanted something with just a fast attack and something that was very precise, and these strings are perfect for that. So that's the first library I used. And then on top of that, remember how I said I purposely had two different bass notes going on, two different basses? So here are my spiccato basses. But to add a little more tension and a little more low end, I put a sustaining bass underneath that. And that's probably like a big no-no in like the orchestration world. I don't think you're supposed to do that. But this is the result. And it may even like muddy up the track. It might be muddying up the track a little bit, but that's okay, because what I was trying to accomplish was that tension and that dissonance, and having two different basses going on at the same time creates that. Even if it does create a little bit of mud, that's okay. And for that, I used, Jaeger again. So all the strings for the most part is Jaeger. But what really makes this track interesting, I think, is all the other stuff that's going on. And I used a ton of effects for this track, as you can tell, a ton of aleatoric effects. And we're going to go way back. We're going to go all the way back to 2002, 2003. And because I used a little library called Symphonic Orchestra by East West. And I absolutely love this library. I think it has some of the best effects in it to this date. To date, it has some of the best effects in it. So, for example, I used a brass rip type of effect for this part. Okay. And in fact, all the brass effects that you hear are pretty much Symphonic Orchestra. That brass effect, I believe, was something else, though. I think that may have been a Project Sam library. I think it may have been Symphobia. Yep, it was Symphobia. So this effect right here, classic Symphobia. And I used some string rips as well. I believe this also came from either Orchestral Essentials or Symphobia again. So, and then I used, for these hits, those hits came from Orchestral Essentials, which is basically like a stripped down version, a re-envisioned version of Symphobia. And one thing I've noticed about the Orchestral Essentials series is that some of the hits in it, like, even though they're taken from the Symphobia series, they sound a little different to me. It's like they mixed them just a little differently. Anyways, so that's all you have going on. And then I have some conventional percussion. I have the timpanis going on. And one thing I want to mention about the timpanis is that, because I wanted a very busy track, and because I wanted, a lot going on simultaneously, what I did was, and this is very unorthodox, by the way, your timpani usually sits right in the center. Like, if you look at like an orchestral seating chart, the timpani sits right in the center. But I took two different timpanis and I panned them left and right. So that's what this is what that sounds like. So as you can hear, you're getting like this kind of effect going on. And again, that was deliberate. I wanted it to sound like there was just a lot going on. This timpani, by the way, comes from Cineperk, which Cineperk has the best timpanis, in my personal opinion. So let's hear that in the mix. So that's all it is. I got the strings from Jaeger. I've got the timpanis going on. I've got some effects from Symphonic Orchestra and Symphobia, and then cymbals. And cymbals, I use some cymbals from the Contact Factory library. as well as True Strike. So I don't know, I think a lot of compositions are okay with just one or two cymbals, but I like to have the tonal differences of a few different cymbals. I also use a tam-tam from Orchestral Essentials, it looks like. And that's what this kind of just comes out of nowhere. Yeah, so if you listen for it. So it's right on that syncopated beat. Excuse me. And then I used, along with, you know how I said I used the low strings? Excuse me. I also used, to accompany that, some low brass. And it's honestly like not even, I honestly didn't do a very good job with programming that brass, but it's just there as like a filler anyways, so it wasn't that important to me. Anyways, that comes from Talos. And so the bass that you get from this section here, from the spiccatos, the legato, and the spiccatos, the legato strings, the low strings, and the low brass all together sounds like this. So let's listen to it without the spiccatos. So you're not getting that kind of, the movement that you get from the spiccatos is totally stripped away when you remove. So listen again. You can hear those spiccatos just bouncing a little bit, and it adds a little more, I don't know, character and dimension to the track, I think. It's totally, I mean, it's probably not ideal, again, from an orchestration point of view. It probably doesn't make any sense, but in my head it makes sense. So let's move on, though. Let's keep cruising. So that's the first section. That section leads into... Okay, most of that is just some hits, like orchestral essential hits. Again, I have some more staccatos. Let's listen to that part without the choir, and that'll give you a good idea of how much the choir is actually doing. Oh, Spinning Wheel of Death. Let's see if this bastard goes away. By the way, my machine is a 2010 Mac Pro. 2010 Mac Pro. And... you know, hence the spinning wheel. I mean, for the most part, it's been a great machine, but it's probably time to upgrade. Okay, so let's go ahead and just mute the choirs in this part and listen to the track. Listen to this section of the track. So the choirs are doing a lot of work. Again, the hits come from Orchestral Essentials. And again, I'm doing the left and right panning thing on this part. So like... right? So again, it's the left and right panning thing that adds a little bit of dimension to that. And as far as strings go, it's the same stuff. It's Jaeger. And... you know, that just sounds like... You know what I did, though? One thing that I want to point out from an orchestration point of view is I created some dissonance and some tension with just the strings by playing some cluster-type chords. Right? But when you play that with the choir, it sounds even more scary, I guess. So, yeah, a little more like Omen-ish, you know, a little more Jerry Goldsmith, I guess. And the main strings that are driving that part... Oh, then I also added some brass staccatos with those strings. So, and that's from Talos again. One reason why I love using Audio Imperia libraries is because they're like No fuss. There's like no fuss at all involved with those libraries. It's just like they work straight out of the gate, or straight out of the box, I should say. So yeah. Someone's calling me. I'm not going to answer it. I don't know who that is. Probably some telemarketer from, I don't know, Middle East or some shit. All right, so moving on. Let's see here. Let's move on to the next section. I think I spent way too much time on that section. But again, like nothing fancy. It's just more basic shit. Okay. This was probably like the most melodic part of the song, the whole song. And again, let's listen to it without the choirs and see what that sounds like. Okay, so you can really hear how much work the choir is doing and how everything else just becomes kind of just a backdrop, really, for that choir. So, again, we have Jaeger Strings, I believe. Let me just double check. But, yeah, Jaeger or Araya, same shit. And that's what the strings sound like this. Again, it's the same dun 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 dun, but it has like this syncopated like driving rhythm. And a lot of the inspiration for this track came from a Van Helsing movie. It was I think it was Alan Silvestri that did. Am I fucking up his name? I might be fucking up his name. Alan Silvestri. I think he did the score for that. Anyways, the Hugh Jackman one. A lot of the inspiration came from that. So if you haven't heard that soundtrack, go back and listen to it because it's hella good. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. A couple other instruments that I added here were some strings. And I really didn't even program them. I just kind of played them in. Excuse me. I shouldn't be drinking soda while I'm doing a walkthrough because it makes you burp. All right, so again, Symphonic Orchestra. I absolutely love some of the articulations in Symphonic Orchestra. I mean, yeah, it's an old library, but you know what they say, like good samples just they don't age. So there's that, and then I also added. What do I want to point out? I used for this part. I did use the tam tam from the Hans Zimmer percussion library. Not important. I mean, any tam tam can do. There's nothing special about this. So right there, that any tam tam can pull that off. I don't know why I used. I don't know. That's one of my regret purchases, actually, is the Hans Zimmer percussion library. I'm not going to go into that right now. But let's see here. What else? Oh, yeah, the chimes. So I added some chimes as well. Again, Symphonic Orchestra. Symphonic Orchestra has some of the best melodic percussion that's ever been sampled. To this day, it's still, like, I reach for it all the fucking time. All right, moving on. I think that's it. I think that's it for that section. Yeah, that's it. Oh, I am using some more brass. I think. What am I doing for brass? I heard some brass in there, but I don't know if I can find it. But I mean, even if I am, it's more. Yeah. It's more Talos. That's all it is, and it's playing along with the. So yeah. So I'm getting a little bit of harmony, like dissonant harmony here with the strings, with the high strings and the low strings and the low brass. Yeah, anyways. And then, let's keep on cruising. So this part leads into I think it's the bridge of the song, the breakdown. I was wrong. It doesn't lead back into the bridge, but all it is, this part, it's the exact same thing as this part. Pretty much, it's the exact same thing. I mean, if you look at this right here, and then right here, it's like, it's just copy and pasted shit. So I've got some brass here, and though that's definitely Talos. Again, Talos. Talos is the shit when it comes to low brass. Talos is the... Don't even get me started on Talos. I love Talos. Let's keep cruising, though. I don't want to spend too much time on that. And then I did use Cinebrass along with it, because I like the high end of Cinebrass more than I like the high end of Talos, but I like the low end of Talos more than I like the low end of Cinebrass, if that makes sense. Okay, and then I don't know if there's anything new. Oh, there is one more thing, a couple of effects in this part that I could show you. This right here. So there's a string rip going on. Again, that's occurring on like the syncopated beat, upbeat, and where's it? I think it's the upbeat. And again, Symphonic Orchestra. And this is what those sound like in isolation. Again, they killed it with Symphonic Orchestra back in the day. So yeah, I think that's everything for that part. Let's listen to it without the choirs, though. That way you can hear all of the instruments that are going on. If I can freaking find the... There we go. Here we go. Let's move. I did hear a... Yep, here we go. Animato. I don't know what the fuck, how you pronounce it. Anyways, this is it right here. Animato. That's what's creating this crescendo riser effect. This is a pretty old library too. It came out several years ago. It's crazy underrated. I mean, it's all like static one-shots, but they're really, really well sampled. I believe it's from Zero G. Great developer. Okay, so that part leads us into the bridge. And again, these strings right here are Jaeger, and it's just a very basic, like, ostinato type thing, I guess. Oh, another thing that's really interesting that I should know is, and it's really, I say it's really interesting, but it really isn't. I actually changed the tempo of the track at this part. So if you watch down here, if you watch the tempo speed, it'll change. It changes just a little bit, and I did that just to up the intensity, just a smidge. So there you go. It goes from 130 to 134, and it's just that little effect that you won't notice. You don't notice it when you're listening to it, but I think subconsciously you do. I think subconsciously it's like just because it's so like minimal, like the human brain is not going to detect it, you know, at face value, but I think your subconscious probably picks up on that just a little bit. And then I did use some phobia for these risers right here. And I also one of my complaints about chorus was that it doesn't come with any effects, so I kind of created my own, and it's just like a cluster chord, and I use the modulation or the mod wheel to turn it into like a riser. That's all that is. And then this, I overused this effect like crazy. It's the patch from True Strike 2. And it's a piano effects, it's like a scrape piano patch, and it's like, of all the scrape piano libraries out there, True Strike 2 is the king. And this patch has been heard in like so many movies and so many video games. Like, you guys recognize all that shit, right? Anyway, so I used that. Just a little touch to make it like flow smoothly into the next section. So this soprano right here is, can you guess? Can you guess where this soprano comes from? Bonus points to anyone who knows where that's from. But for those of you who don't know, it comes from also Jaeger. Go figure. Marith? I don't know how to pronounce her name. I'm terrible at pronouncing names, apparently. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce her last name. But anyways, that is the soprano. And I'm using that along with let's see. Oh yeah. I'm not a big fan of Majestica or 8W. I'm just not. But the bar talks in it are kick-ass. It's like the best part of the entire library. They're just like, they're so spinning wheel of death again. Anyways, the bar talks in Majestica or 8W are massive sounding. They're huge, and they're very, very percussive. 8Dio is one of those developers that, like, I have a lot of 8Dio libraries, and they're one of those developers where, like, in each library there's like maybe one or two gems that I'll reach for, and like 90% of the library it just sits there collecting digital dust. I never use it. It's kind of how Majestica is. So they just sound incredible. So yeah, I used that on this part as just an accent, you know. I also used some anvils along with it, and I believe those are from Symphonic Orchestra. Again, amazing library. Yeah, let's keep cruising. So this part right here, I use Pandora for like a low brass cluster type of effect. Pandora is phenomenal for low brass clusters. It just has like a certain grit to it that's really hard to find in other libraries. And then I used Hollywood Brass for that. I don't even know what they call it. What? Flutter. That's what it is. It's like a rip flutter. So those two together. Yeah. And let's see here. Oh, and then I used the crescendo from the timpani crescendo from Arc 3 on that part. I mean, any timpani roll or crescendo would work for that. I mean, there's nothing, I don't know. I used it for whatever reason. And then this goes into the last section, the last main section of the entire track. Okay, so for that I used some tremolo strings that I don't know where these came from. Let's see. Yeah, go figure. More Jaeger. Okay. Oh, that's not. Is it tremolo? No, it's not. Spiccato. What am I smoking? For whatever reason, I wrote tremolo right here, but that's that part. And I think these are the tremolo strings. Yeah, and the reason why I use the tremolo strings is because, well, you know, tremolo, it gives it just a little more movement. That way it's not so static playing, or sounding, I mean. And then again, Symphonic Orchestra, and some more Hans Zimmer tam-tam and low brass. Low brass probably from Talos again. So, I mean, and that's it. That's it. I mean, it's a very, very simple track, and you know, it's just there's a lot of tiny little things happening here and there, and it's happening all at once, so it makes it sound like there's a lot going on, and yeah, but it's actually like really just very, very basic, very simple. So let's listen to that section without the choir. Let's see here. Here we go. And let's see here. And then it just ends on basically a hit. There's another riser in here. Where did it go? Oh yeah, it's Pandora again. Sounds like this. Pandora is dope because you can control how long you want those risers to be, because it's based off of a grid system, off of your beat system. Anyways, oh yeah, and then again, True Strike 2 with that hit. It's that same patch, and Damage 2. That's all that is. And again, because chorus doesn't have any effects, I created my own just using some cluster chords. Oh, I'm also using if you listen, it's panning back and forth slowly. So I'm also using that, a panner. It's just a basic built-in panner in Cubase, nothing special. And that's it, guys. That's seriously it. It just ends. And that last hit is also from Orchestral Essentials or Symphonia, whatever. So that's it, guys. If you have any questions, you know, feel free to drop me a line. And thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Mike Fox. We'll see you guys later. Bye.